I think we are live.
OK，各位顶思的朋友们，大家晚上好，我是 Steven，欢迎大家再次来到顶思的直播间。相信大家呢也是刚刚忙完了一天的工作哈，也是希望我们今天的分享内容呢可以作为大家晚餐的佐餐佳肴。我们今天将继续为大家带来神奇教师的直播互动。本期我们的主题是教师专业技能核心修炼的8法，教师发展的关键针在哪？很荣幸，我们今天邀请到的嘉宾是我们的评委老师 Mr. Alessandro。Alessandro 目前担任深圳汇同学校工作室的负责人，创意艺术与设计部的主任。Good evening, everyone. I'm Steven. Welcome to Top Schools Live again. I'm sure you have all just finished a busy day at work, and we hope that what we are sharing today can serve as an accompaniment to your dinner. Today, we will continue to bring you the interactive live streaming of the Wonder Teachers. Our topic is cultivating professional teaching skills, the how and why of teachers' development. We are honored to invite Mr. Alessandro as our guest speaker today, who is the Deputy Head of Creative Arts and Design Department in Shenzhen Nanshan Huitong School. Okay, first of all, let's invite Mr. Alessandro. Say hello to our audience.
Good evening, everyone. I think we are going to have a very interesting discussion about a topic that is of interest of all of us educators.
Okay, thank you. During the live streaming, if you have any questions to ask, welcome to enter in our chat box. We will answer for you in advance. So please let me now introduce Alessandro's professional background. He is a highly accomplished educator and designer with a master's in education and a pre-K to 12 art teacher certification. He brings the extensive experience, including IB Visual Arts and AP Art and Design certifications, and has held leadership roles at Raffles University, a prominent design-focused institution in Asia. Currently, he serves on the senior leadership team at Huitong School in Shenzhen as Deputy Head of Studios, following 4 years as Head of the Creative Arts and Design Department. Alessandro is deeply passionate about the intersection of traditional and modern media and believes education plays a vital role in bridging cultures. His expertise spans multiple domains, including project-based learning, that is PBL, e-learning, and smart platform development. Recognized for his leadership skills, he has successfully fostered the professional growth of his colleagues, creating cohesive teams that inspire students to gain admission to prestigious art and design institutions worldwide. Additionally, he holds a foreign permanent resident ID card from China, reflecting his commitment to education in China since 2004. So let's kick things off with something we are now but often forget: the importance of continuous professional development. Is it not just about staying relevant? Is it about elevating the impact we have on our students? We are now diving into a crucial topic that shapes the future of education. Let's turn our attention to the key competencies for professional teaching. We are venturing beyond the fundamentals here. We are exploring the indispensable skills that define 21st century educators. So, Mr. Alessandro, in your experience, what is the role of continuous professional development in 2024 and onwards in shaping a teacher's effectiveness and the student's outcomes?
Well, Stephen, thanks a lot for your introduction. Well, that is a very key question, but I think the key point is, in this case, in my experience, I have been living in China since 2004. That means 20 years as we speak. So this is my 20th anniversary here in China. And I've been always working in education. I've been teaching at the university level in northeast of China first, then in Shanghai, college level, and now school level. So my experience is quite broad and covers almost all the ranges of education. I think I never taught at kindergarten level yet. So that's the only one I'm missing. And the key point is that across all of these experiences, continuous and professional development has always been a key. A lot of teachers and educators sometimes find themselves gravitating, as we used to say, around the things like IB, AP, and for instance, in my particular case, as an art educator, I also look into these many different programs. But I found myself more interested in swinging across all of this rather than focus on one of these in particular. And I have absorbed the best I could from all of these best practices. For example, at some point in my career, I decided to study about project-based learning, PBL. So I got my certification in PBL in the arts. Because I thought that this was extremely important to combine and put together all the other elements. And so, for example, in our school, we run a very successful fashion show. And you know, why fashion show? Because in the arts, fashion actually includes many different aspects, such as drawing, such as knitting, such as sewing, but also the organization of the fashion show itself, such as connecting with the vendors, organize the audience, and all of these aspects make the project extremely complicated. And the students were able to run this project by themselves with very little guidance from us teachers. So that goes to show that students and teachers can keep learning if they only are able to challenge themselves and rather than being enclosed in some definitions, like I said before, AP, AB, or A level. You know, the more we are able to challenge themselves as educator, the more our students will benefit.
Okay, thanks, Alessandro. Speaking of which, I saw your website and the presentation you gave in Shanghai at the TIDE conference, right? Where you discussed your Innovate Art Plus teaching methodology. Could you explain how you developed Art Plus and the role that continuous self-improvement has played in reaching these conclusions?
Yeah. So Art Plus Plus, as we define it, is a program that has been developed through the years, as I said before, by adding brick after brick, step after step in my professional development, in my career. So, for example, when I started learning about PBL, so project-based learning, I thought, oh, okay. I was inspired by one of my best friend and colleagues. His name is Dr. Chan from Singapore. I noticed that he was teaching PBL and multiple intelligence by Professor Howard Gardner in the school where I used to work in Dompei, in Changchun. And interestingly enough, he was teaching this in business administration. So nothing to do with art or design. But I loved his approach. And I thought, actually, this may work in the arts as well. So again, we go back to my first point, the importance of being curious, the importance of looking at examples and best practices that goes beyond the book, that goes beyond the big names in education as those one that I mentioned before. And so I learned a lot from a business teacher, interestingly enough, and I try to apply this methodology also to my own teaching.
Okay, we have already discussed the why behind the developing of the core competencies of teachers. Now let's dive into the how. Could you share with us some practical approaches to teacher development, Mr. Alessandro?
Yeah, so this leads me to a very interesting point because it allows me to talk about what I'm doing now in these last years, working in Huitong in Shenzhen. Again, it's very important, in my opinion, to look at what the school has to offer to you as an educator. And when I say this, I don't mean, for example, if a school can afford to send you to a huge conference in New York, say. I'm really looking at what the colleagues around us can provide us in terms of experiences. So, for instance, I learn a lot from our math teachers. So I don't actually need to go to a big conference. Yeah, that will help. But very important is to be curious and to look what other people is doing around you, just around the walls in the school. I learn a lot from our science teachers. I spend times in talking with them and try to absorb as much as I can, not so much from their knowledge, but rather from their way of developing a lesson plan, for example. So my advice is build a network within the school you are working for and make the best use out of it. Then, of course, you can be guided in this process. So, for example, in Huitong, we are running a project called Huitong Global History Project. And this integrates subjects like history, music, art, science, literature. So there's a lot of teachers and a lot of subjects involved. This allows the student to look at things from different perspectives, but most importantly, allow us teachers to teach not just our subject, but also to dig into areas that we are not fully confident with. And that is extremely important. To step out of our comfort zone is exactly what allow us to experiment, make our mistakes, of course, but also gain from them. That is why I always tend to think, oh, thank God one day in my life I met Dr. Chan, Alvin Chan, because through him I learned a lot about the integration of different subjects together.
Okay, thank you. So based on what you have just and previously said, how do we know if we are on the right track, especially in areas where teacher development is evaluated? We are discussing self-assessment tools, student feedback, and professional growth profiles, setting clear and measurable goals for personal development, right?
Yeah, well, that is a very tricky part in our job. I personally would say four main points. I think, without any doubt, the students' outcomes is the most tangible way to assess the progress and the engagement. When students produce meaningful work, when they take intellectual risks, very important, when they show growth, when they show confidence in their presentation, in their product, definitely that means you have made a huge impact on them. They have improved from where they were before they meet the teacher to where they are after they met the teacher. The second point, I call it professional happiness. You know, we have professional development, which of course we all agree on the meaning, but there is an element that is more about feelings, and I call it professional happiness. There is a sense of fulfillment. So that means a key indicator is when you are happy in your profession, when you feel challenged, but also rewarded. That means your development as a person, as a teacher, is there, is actually happenings. And these are the values and the strengths that you have to look for in your daily job. I would also say inspiring others, not be selfish. Let me tell you, in my personal opinion, we educators are divided in two categories: the so-called givers and the so-called takers. The givers are those that will go the extra mile, and they will never think of, oh, okay, like, what is my salary? I just work this bit. If I'm given an extra task, I will challenge my leadership. Those are the people that is willing to give. And then there are the takers, which of course are exactly the opposite. So inspiring others, it means not being selfish. If you have a great idea and you think it's working, share it, because by sharing you are going to get more, because someone else can add something on top of it, and so your good idea become a great idea. So the more you share, the better would be for everyone. So that's, I say, inspiring others. And then, of course, I would say last but not least is feeling challenged and creative. So that means never fear to try new stuff. The growth is measured through the challenges that you go through, and that applies not just to teachers but also to students. So, for instance, the Global History project that I mentioned before is very challenging for many of us, but in a good way. So, force us to think deeper, to think better. And that is a great exercise for our brain. And we project that into our students. So they give us the chance to become a better teachers and better professional towards our students. So again, as I said before, get out of your comfort zone. Do things that you have never done before. Go towards subjects that are completely stranger to you, but try to understand the best you can and then bring them back to your own area of expertise.
Okay, thank you. So, in today's digital age, how can we not utilize technology to improve our skills? So, can you introduce how EdTech empowers teachers and how to use artificial intelligence and adaptive learning platforms for personalized teacher training?
This is a quite controversial area that let me try to clarify my thought on this, because I was just having an interesting discussion with my chancellor today on the best way to actually use tools like ChatGPT or this kind of platforms. So in my opinion, technology is essential, but all these tools are supplements rather than replacements of our core content and ideas. None of these tools can replicate the depth of creativity that we bring to our teaching. So this perspective is very important for our students. This is actually what we need to teach first to our students, to use the tools rather than be used by the tools, and rather than thinking that the tools are the answer. The tools are just tools. The answer is within us, is within our brain. In this regard, AI, needless to say, is very helpful, can be very helpful. But I always like to joke with my students and also with my colleagues. What is AI? AI is artificial intelligence. It seems that it's working very well, but what is lacking of is creativity. And so we are not able to have anything like artificial creativity yet. Maybe it will come very soon. I have no doubt. But before that, if it's just artificial intelligence, I think for us teachers, for us educators, there's still a lot of work to do and a lot of improvements to make in our career. So my point is, great to have these tools, learn how to use it, but please remember that these are just tools.
Yes, of course. We can't ignore the challenges in teachers' development and how to overcome them. How do we balance the demands of the teaching with our own professional growth? And how do we stay motivated and avoid burnout?
Yeah, this is a very difficult exercise to do. And actually, I think it requires perhaps a little bit of mature age. So I remember back in my days, in my younger days, it was slightly difficult to balance the teaching demand with the personal growth. Now that I'm more mature, I feel myself, I'm a bit more able to do that. But in general, I would say the school environment, as I said before, is the primary source of inspiration and learning. So rather than just looking far, I focus on building connection within the school, learning from colleagues, as I said before, engaging with the students' perspective, and exploring very interesting interdisciplinary projects. So these are some of the key aspects. Through this, I managed to keep myself curious and full of energy. Without these elements, I would be bored basically by keep doing the same routine and the same job over and over again. The more you as educator immerse yourself in the day-to-day learning opportunities, I think the more fulfilling and enjoyable the teaching becomes. And then in this case, you manage to avoid to be burned out, because that's the danger there. So curiosity is extremely important. Staying curious is extremely important, and being able to motivate yourself helps a lot in going through also sometimes the hard times that we have in our job. Believe it or not, this is really part of a professional development alongside with the personal development. So the two aspects of yourself, both as a profession and as a personal, have to grow at the same time, and I should say almost at the same speed.
Okay, so now let's think bigger. What's the broader impact of all this? How does cultivating professional skills create a ripple effort in the education system? And how can we, as teachers, model lifelong learning for our students? Sir.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to say in this area, to be frank. I'll try to keep it short, but uh, cultivating professional skills is is a very profound item. It's a very profound topic. Uh, it's very difficult to create kind of waves that touch every aspect of the education system. By committing to grow ourselves, we not only transform ourselves, but also inspire those around us. So if you decide to grow, if you decide to develop yourself professionally, you are actually already affecting with that decision other people around you, which are most likely your students and also your colleagues and even the parents, actually. So, for example, when I start creating the Art Plus Plus, or even what happened in our school with the global history, these are not just academic exercises. This is much more than that. These are expression of a belief that education can be dynamic, can be creative, and most importantly, can be deeply human. So when the students see us learning, exploring, and sometimes even struggling, they witness the hard times we go through. When I tell my students that at the age of 55, I decide to embrace my second master degree, they're like, wow, that takes a lot of effort, a lot of resilience. And it is true. It wasn't easy at all. It was hard to put my head again back on the books, let's say. But that is also an example that is worth showing to our students. So to see that learning is not just about meeting the standards, it's about expanding your mind. When the students see that, they understand more what is actually education. And actually, for that matter, even parents understand that. So I believe this is the actual essence of education. is creating a culture where learning is cherished, where we all together continually strive for more, and when we inspire the next generation to look beyond. One of my guru is Sir Ken Robinson. I've read all of his books. He's a fantastic guy that really changed my way to look at things. And Ken Robinson always emphasized that teaching is not merely about transmitting knowledge. Okay, it's not make one piece of knowledge going from A to B, basically. It's about fostering curiosity and the natural joy of learning. So that is how I see the professional development and how this impact people around you.
Yes. Okay, let's come to the eighth question. Let's touch on cultural intelligence and teaching in an international environment. In a world that's becoming more and more global, understanding and respecting cultural differences is crucial. So, sir, as Mr. Alessandro, well, how can we adapt our teaching methods to cater to students from various cultural backgrounds? And how can we prepare our students to become global citizens?
Yeah, I think that the answer to that would be curiosity. So before to get to that point, I would like to share a little video, again by Professor Robinson, where he kind of hint already the answer to this question. So give me 1 second. Let me share my screen and let's take a look together at this beautiful clip by Professor Robinson.
Intervention is a book published a number of years ago by a guy called Peter Brook, called The Empty Space. It's about theatre.
By a guy called Peter Brook, called The Empty Space. It's about theatre. And Peter Brook's career has been peppered with extraordinary productions which have changed the face of contemporary theatre in all kinds of ways. And he said in this book, it's about 25 years ago maybe, that he is committed to making theatre the most powerful experience it can be. And so he says to do that, we have to be clear what it is. And to answer his own question, he performs a sort of thought experiment where he says, what's the irreducible minimum in a theatre experience? What can you take away and still have it? So he says, you can take away the curtains, the costumes, you can take away the script. A lot of theatre is not scripted. The director, you don't need directors. For theatre, you don't need the stage. Actually, you don't need the building. All you really need is an actor. It can be outdoors, in a clearing or in a car park. You just need an actor in a space and somebody watching. And it's the somebody watching that makes it theatre. The actor performs a drama. Theatre describes the relationship between the audience and the performance. So theatre is a relationship word. And he said it's that relationship that we should focus on, and we shouldn't add anything to it if it diminishes it or gets in the way of it. So his focus is always on the skills of the actors and deepening their understanding of the process and the responses they're trying to engage with the audience. Well, the analogy for me with education is very powerful, because the role at the heart of education, there are students. I mean, if there were no students, then there would be very little point having the system, would it really? If the place was just full of administrators, then they'd all be sitting around, playing on their Candy Crush things. But the fact that there are students in the system is what this is all about, and we have to remember that the role of education is to help students to learn, and the people who do that are not the policymakers or the superintendents, it's the teachers who do that. So the heart of education is the relationship between teachers and learners. That's what it's about. And everything else should be focused on making that the best relationship possible. And the problem is that over time, all kinds of things have got in the way of it. Testing regimes, league tables, unions' bargaining rights, building codes, professional identities, the concerns of various pressure groups, the ideology of various political parties. And it's very easy for people to spend all day discussing education without mentioning the students at all. You know, we end up talking about data and league tables and testing and budgets. But all of this is a complete waste of everybody's time if we forget that our role is to help students learn. And therefore the question is, so what should they learn, and how do we best do that? But all the great education systems, all the great schools know that. It's why they invest so heavily in the selection of teachers, why they insist on getting people who don't just have good degrees, even if they have them at all. They want people who know their material, but they also know that teaching depends upon a whole set of pedagogical skills and a love of the process. And it's more than the transmission of direct content. It's about having a set of skills that are focused on facilitating learning.
To my point, hang on, let me share the PPT again. Going back to my point, so your question was about cultural intelligence. Now, what basically Sir Robinson said is that, you know, at the heart of education, there is the relationship between students and teachers. And everything is around is important, but it's not the most important thing. However, here we are in China, for my case, and I'm Italian. And I have to add one more element to it, which is how I manage to communicate to my students coming from a different culture, coming from a different country. Also, how do I communicate with my colleagues, not just the Chinese colleagues, but the colleagues coming from different countries? How do I make that communication effective and relevant to the job I do every day? To be honest, I didn't really know the answer. I just learned by doing throughout my more than 20 years of career. But at some point, I noticed that I had to study. I had to learn from books and from other people how to do that. And that is when I took my second master degree, because I developed a thesis. So my final paper in the master degree was about cultural intelligence. So cultural intelligence differs from, of course, QI. So cultural intelligence is basically CI, and QI, we all know what it's about, right? So it's a different approach. That means the cultural intelligence allow you to basically put yourself in somebody else's shoes by knowing what is the size of these shoes. That means if you know more about other cultures, if you have studied about them, if you have met people coming from other cultures, you are mentally prepared to engage them on a similar level, which allows you to avoid conflicts, basically. Now, if you apply that to your classroom, it's kind of similar, because there you are in front of your 20, 30, sometimes more students, which all have different cultures and different ideas, especially in a large country like China. So you have a lot of students coming from different provinces, and each province has its different way of thinking, sometimes different way of speaking even. But there you are challenged by the fact that you must make sure that your message goes across all of them. And that requires what is called cultural intelligence. So that is why I have added this 8th point to my presentation, that nowadays is extremely important to know more and to study more about cultural intelligence in order to be able to understand better your students and also the colleagues around you, especially if you work in an international environment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alessandro. Now our audience want to ask you to confirm. The first question is how to design an interdisciplinary project about the theater.
This is very interesting. That reminds me of actually one of the projects that one of my colleagues is running. my colleague is Mathieu, is a French guy, and he is working together in his after-school studio with another one of my colleagues. Her name is Faye, who is our drama teacher. So here we have an art teacher working together with a drama teacher. So what are they developing together? So of course, the drama teacher is more in charge of the drama part. That means whatever the students will create on stage. And the deliverable, which means the piece that they will share and recite in front of other people, in front of the audience, as Mr. Robinson just said. And what is my colleague support, my artist colleague support, Mr. Mathieu? Well, he will teach the students how to design and create props. That means everything about the behind the scene, the stage, so whatever is necessary to make the drama piece look more real. So that means two teachers coming from different backgrounds, working together for the students, and then the students also, they have to learn two different set of knowledge that are not related at all. One is about making things, creating and making things, and the other one is about learning things and remember them and recite them in a way that is convincing and passionate. So again, the answer to the question is how to create. If you are working in an environment where teachers talk to each other, if you are working in an environment where teachers see that in the other colleague there is a potential to learn something from the other person, that is where the magic happens. If you are working in an environment whereby, you know, there are different parts, but they are not unite, and they then don't communicate to each other, they don't find interesting what the other people is doing, that is much harder than.
Yes, yes. Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Alessandro, for sharing with us. So everyone, are you ready to dive in? Let's explore these topics and come out with a renewed sense of purpose and took it full of strategies to take your teaching to the next level. Okay, everyone, if I have any questions, you can put the message on the screen. Maybe we waiting for a couple of minutes. Oh, someone said, in AI, what the specific requirements to the teachers, Mr. Alessandro?
Well, as I said before, AI is, to me, is just another tool. I've noticed recently that other educators, as well as students, they are just using AI to create pieces of work for them. Now, that is not quite right, at least in my opinion. So I also use AI. I also use ChatGPT, for example, for helping me in improving my English, my written English, because English is not my first language. But I never ask AI to come out with ideas instead of me. That means the ideas are mine. You just check the language. The content is mine. You just help me in making better. But recently, what I noticed that because it seems to be so convenient, more and more educators are actually asking AI to even write the content for them. And basically that make even the brain work less and being a little bit lazier. Well, don't go there. That is wrong. It will affect you and will hurt you. You think you are doing something good because you have maybe more time to do other things, but actually you are not. So AI is just a tool, use it as such. And the same is for some other AI tools that create images or video. Again, let your creativity tell AI what to do, but don't let AI do it instead of you. That's my take on this.
Okay, thank you. We come to the next question. In what aspect are art and design teachers different from other subject teachers in teaching?
I don't want to say something that will embarrass me and also embarrass other colleagues. But let's say I personally feel privileged to teach art because I have to deal with a lot of creative thinking every day. And that is a fantastic exercise for me that maybe helps me in keeping young, but also is something that I can share with my student. I think the main difference is that, is the creative part. That means I can literally create a different lesson plan without really even looking at a textbook, whereby maybe in other subjects, the textbook is sort of leading the instruction to be delivered. I feel that a great advantage for me.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one is, what is the characteristics of leadership in an international school, or specific requirements for the middle leaders, for leaders, right?
Yeah. So if I understand the question correctly, and forgive me if I didn't, but I'll try my best. So the characteristics of leadership in an international school, that goes back to my 8th point of the discussion, being cultural intelligent. That means being able to fully understand how it is to work with people coming from different cultures, even if sometimes this means to dig into very specific issues and problems that are culturally related. In this regard, it's really not so much about language. So, for instance, if I am dealing with an Indian colleague, it will be helpful if I know some Indian words or some Indian dialect words. But that is not the point. The point is not so much about the language, the knowledge of a different language, although that will help a lot. It's really about being able to understand the background of the cultural background where these people come from. Getting to know, for example, what was their schooling back in the days. So where did they go to school? In which province of which country? And at what time of the history of that country? That helps a lot in figuring out what kind of people I have in front of me and what they have studied in the past, and therefore what made them what they are today when they are facing me. So all of these require actually a huge effort, but nevertheless, it's worth it. And through that, you can really create a common background with the people you are talking to. And even when it comes to tough decision making, they will understand you more if you were able to understand them more.
Yes. Okay. The next question our fans want to ask is that what kind of drama textbooks are most suitable for primary school teachers to use?
Oh, look, I am afraid I am not the right person to ask this question, but thank you, because my background is in the visual arts, not so much in the performing arts. So I'm afraid I don't have the right answer for you, and I don't want to say anything wrong to mislead you. But if I may give an advice, as I said, textbooks are great, of course, especially for those who have written them. But nowadays, I would rather look for case studies rather than textbooks. So that means on the internet is plenty of beautiful examples of the teachers that are willing to share their experience in teaching grade 1, grade 2 drama. and they would give fantastic ideas. You don't have to copy them, but you can watch them, observe them, and make your own, I should say, version of it. I have done that quite a lot in my career as a teacher. I bless all the teachers that have inspired me. Today I named some of them. And I always say, when someone is looking at you as an example, when someone is even copying you, it means you have done something great. You have done something that everyone wants to do. So don't be afraid of being copied, because a creative person is always able to generate new things. So once someone copy from you or get ideas from you, it means you are good. You have done something really cool.
Okay. So the next one question is, I think, it's a deep question. That is, what is the effective ways to improve teachers' development?
Effective ways to improve teacher development. Well, first of all, for example, one way, and forgive me if I sound a little bit not too modest, is to attend these events. To be able to sit there in front of your phone or your computer and listening to people like me, and that is already, it means you are on a good track. It means you are willing to learn, to keep learning. I have been able of this Wonder Teachers competition. I was part of it last year, and I was one of the judges. As a judge, I was asked to watch a lot of videos of teachers teaching PE, teaching art, but also teaching music. You have no idea how much I learned from them, even though they were much younger than me, and teaching sometimes in a very difficult situation, not as comfortable as it could be in my art room. I was blessed to be able to watch all of these teachers struggling to help their student. So again, the answer to the question is be open as much as you can. Look around into your school. If you currently are not teaching in the school, find a school that allow you to sit in the class and observe what's going on. That is so valuable and is definitely, if I can say, much better than maybe learning from some old textbooks.
Thank you, Mr. Alessandro. So maybe we're waiting for a couple of minutes for one more question or two. Yeah.
Okay. I think there were quite a lot already.
Yes. Someone says, how can an HRD help cultivating professional teaching skills? This is a human resources question, I think, right?
Oh, say again, sorry. How can
an human resources director helping cultivating professional teaching skills?
Okay. Wow, that is a really good question, because, most of the time, the professional development of the teachers is kind of left in the hands of the teacher as well, which is not bad, actually, because you can decide what is best for you. But if you are lucky enough to work in an organization where the human resources is really very careful in the development of the teacher, that is even better. That is the best possible combination. The kind of support, sometimes you may think, oh, yeah, of course, what I would ask to my human resources, a budget. Give me a budget, give me whatever money is needed so that I can go online and buy some courses, and that's it. Actually, that is not very helpful. So what I would rather say to my human resource is say, well, look, say, for example, I'm an art teacher. I would like to develop in certain areas, but every day I must go to class and teach. And I have no time to seek for the best possible option for my professional development, whether it's free of charge or whether I have to pay for it. So if HRD could help in that and say, well, okay, no problem. Let me look into it. I will find some options for you, and then I will get back to you and see whether that suits you. That would be so amazing already. If someone can help in that quest for the most reliable sources, that would be so important and so relevant.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Alessandro. Maybe we think it's very helpful for our future work, right? For our teachers.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Okay, everyone. 感谢 Oh, sorry, one more question.
Yeah.
How to take good care of ourselves as teachers?
Yeah, this is so important. Well, look, let me tell you, for example, today, my lunch. Today, I ate a salad with some mushroom, and I made myself a sandwich with fresh bread and some salmon and some cheese. What I'm trying to say here, that the best way to take care of yourself as an educator is to take care of your health. Do sport, and I mean it. You may think, oh, what has teaching to do with sports? Everything is important to be able to come to class and deliver a great class. Teaching is tiring, is tiresome. Being in a class for, say, 2 or 3 hours and teaching is draining if it's done properly and with energy and passion. So that energy somehow has to go back to you in some ways. So being fit is very important in every job, but I should say in teaching even more. So eat well, sleep well. All the suggestions that we give to our students actually should apply to us. Read more, enjoy yourself, go to watch some movies sometimes, read some good books. All of these matter because this will make your brain and body healthier, so that every day you are fresh to come to work with renewed energy. Is really as simple as this, you may think. Yes, it is. At least so far it has worked well for me.
Yes, health is most important for us, for everyone. Yes. So the next question is how to be a hardworking teacher while not sacrificing ourselves, free time and daily life.
Wow, that is a challenging. I've touched this a little bit during my speech and about balancing. Look, let me be very open with you. The answer to this question will be given to you by your life. There is no recipe. Let me give you a practical example. My teaching life changed before and after I married and before and after I had babies. So, I mean, my wife had babies and I became a father. It was a huge change. So, as I said, that is a change in life that affected, in many ways, my work. So the balance comes by itself alongside with the changes in life that you have. So if in your life, for example, for some time you are single, and maybe you are somehow more devoted to your work, then all of a sudden you are not single anymore. You have another person in your life, and then maybe the time that you think about your work become less because you also want to spend time with your companion, with your partner, and also with your friends. So is life actually that is dictating the direction, is not so much something that you decide by yourself. At least that is what happened to me.
Yeah. So how important of self-reflection in teachers' personal development
Oh, is everything.
is everything?
Is everything. I am very demanding with myself, and I admit openly my mistakes, whether in front of other people or just in front of the mirror. When I look at myself and I say, well, that was not good, that was not good enough. So the key point is always being very critical with yourself. Oh, I have to say, sometimes it is not very helpful to be very strict to yourself. Sometimes that is maybe too much, but sometimes is needed. You just have to admit it when you have done something not right in your profession. Hopefully, it's not a big mistake, but whether big or small, just admit it to yourself. Be very open. If you want to even admit it to someone else, to someone you trust very much, like your best friend or someone in the family, do it. Get it out. It will be very helpful. And then build on that. I say, this was not quite right. Let me redo it, or let me make it better. That is where the actual change happen. I mean, needless to say, this is what we ask to our students, don't we? They come out with solutions that are not exactly what we expect. What do we do with that? Of course, we as educators, our duty is to improve on them and make sure that next time they can do better, maybe much better or a little better, as long as there is an improvement. Well, do that to yourself too. You deserve it. You are a hardworking educator. So have mercy on you, but also look for improvements all the times.
Okay, so how to design the appraisal system to encourage professional development?
An appraisal system to encourage professional development, which I guess it means within the school, right? Now, this is a very tricky question in the sense that it's a little bit like asking, what is the best way to evaluate your students? What is the best grading system? There is no right or wrong, to be honest. You have to trust the organization you are working for. That means usually every school has their own appraisal system through which they evaluate the teacher and their daily job. Some schools have been around for centuries, literally. So there are schools, for example, in Europe, where I come from, there are schools that have been there in the same building for centuries. And of course, they have developed a system and they have been improving on them. But that doesn't mean that it's perfect. It's just their system. For example, in our school, Huitong, we are constantly improving on the appraisal system for our colleagues. And we are a brand new school, relatively speaking, just 6 years compared to those very ancient schools in Europe. But that is not very important. The important is that you have to trust the organization you work for and believe that they are trying to come out with the best assessment system for both students and teachers. I would suggest, if you are brave enough, to voice out what would be your contribution to that. So if you have ideas on let's say how to improve an assessment system or things or similar things, then voice it out, speak it, send an email, ask for a meeting. I think in the best school in the world, that's how it works. The contribution comes from everybody involved in the process.
Okay, thank you. Comes the next one. That is about the balancing of hardworking teacher and the daily life. That means, could you tell something more about in terms of efficiency?
Yeah, I think there was a similar question before, so I would refer to what I've said before. But if the key word here is efficiency, I am personally not extremely efficient, and the reason is because I'm very passionate, and sometimes passion and efficiency don't go very well together. That means I go all the way towards the objective I want to reach, and sometimes I'm not so efficient in doing that because my passion is actually driving me rather than the methodology. So it has happened to me quite a lot in my career. However, I successfully reached the goal, so that means it has worked for me. When it comes to efficiency, it's really very personal, and you can read, you can learn from books, you can attend courses where you are sort of instructed on how to develop in your life. But at the end of the day, each of us has a different way to tackle this. Like, I am not super organized person, I have to say, but within my chaos, I can find everything, both in my mind and on my desk. So that I call it efficient. But if someone else deal with me, I'll say, that's a mess. So, it's really personal. Find your way, and the best way to find your way is to interact with other people.
Yes. So the next question, I think, is also a deep question. That is, what's a reasonable budget for a teacher's development annually?
So I personally would balance a lot of unbelievable free resources that are out there with some paid one. So, for example, if you look in my website, you will find that I have gained a lot of certifications, to be honest. But, a lot of these are actually free, but yet coming from amazing organizations like University of Michigan or Harvard. So there are a lot of free resources provided by these amazing educators that are extremely worth considering. And as for the paid one, if you ask me for a budget, I would say in US dollar, because that comes to my mind right now, anything between 8 to 10,000, I think, can allow you to look into something decent and helpful for your growth. So yeah, but again, the balance is between the free and the paid one. And by the way, when I say the paid one, when I mention the paid one, they might last not just 1 year, but even longer. So it's not like every year you have to spend that money. So you buy what you need, and that maybe cover a couple of years. And I think that is already good.
Yes. Thank you, Alessandro, and thank you for all of us teachers for participate. Let's think maybe the end of the today's speech. So 最后感谢 Alessandro 为我们带来的精彩分享，同时也感谢大家的参与。最后呢，欢迎大家积极报名参与到顶思第6届神奇教师杯教学技能大赛。神奇教师评选呢，是一个为全国国际化特色学校的专业教师搭建的教学展示和技能平台，是各学科教师展示教学神殿、提升专业技能、实现个人和集体价值的最具实力的舞台。通过大赛呢，教师可以展示自己的教学风采，交流教学经验， 共享教学创新成果，进而推动整个教育系统的进步和发展。详细信息呢，欢迎大家扫描屏幕中的二维码进行详细了解。Okay, thank you, Mr. Alessandro again. 再次感谢 Mr. Alessandro 今天为我们带来的精彩分享。感谢大家的收看，以及对隐私一如既往的支持与关注。祝大家晚安，我们下期再见。Thank you for all.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.